Today I have Josh with me, and he is a director of urban studies. He'll go into depth of his title and all the great things he does at STCC. So I'm really excited to have him on with us because urban study is like a gem. It's so many different things, and I'm glad to be learning more about this program with you all today. Just some quick housekeeping. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A or comments or concerns. We will be adding any chat, any resources or links right to that chat box. And you all are muted and your cameras are off. So we'll just jump right in. Actually, Josh, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Josh Carreiro. I am professor of sociology at STCC, and actually just this week my title has changed. I'm now the department chair of social and behavioral sciences. That's because of a small bit of restructuring at STCC. And in addition to being department chair, I am also still the program coordinator of urban studies. I've been at STIC, I've been at STIC, I think I'm going into my 9th year at the college, and yeah, I guess that's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today. I really do appreciate your time.
Of course, thank you.
All right, we're going to go into a small video in a second.
STIC is a wonderful campus right in Springfield, beautiful, historic, very walkable. We have people from throughout the city who often come to walk at lunchtime, in the evenings, etc. The buildings are beautiful, modern. I tell folks it's an oasis here in the city.
There's a very, very strong sense of community here between other students that want to see each other succeed and the professors that want to see you succeed.
Well, many students start at a 2-year community college like STCC. You save a lot of money, have small classes, individual help, etc., and transfer on as juniors through many of our articulation agreements with 4-year schools.
I commute here. I plan on transferring to UMass. Everyone's friendly here. It's positive. You can feel the energy.
There's a lot of activity, both by day and at night. Students are out studying, out at the picnic tables, they're walking around campus. We have a lot of athletic teams that are constantly playing out on the fields.
The sports programs are very, very good here. I'm getting so much help from the people around me in the communities. It's a great place here.
I'm in my 3rd semester. I want to have my associate degree and transfer to UMass Amherst. Many things that will help you to succeed in what you want to do.
All services students really need to enroll in school, stay in school, financial aid, you talk about the library, tutoring, all that stuff is in one building now. Students love it because there's also a lot of student space.
You can see students hanging out all over campus, especially with the new building. Once you get here, all the students are hanging out here.
Right in our surroundings, we have the Springfield Quadrangle, Merriam-Webster's world headquarters right across the street. Walking around Mattoon Street, some of the very historic communities. It's a really beautiful area. Tech Park's a real neat place. It became very much a small business incubator space, and we also have classrooms there. We have our mechanical engineering program, has all their labs in there, state-of-the-art facility. We have a lot of folks who just come to take 1 or 2 courses to see if college is for them. And they find that niche, and they take off like rockets. And they are dedicated students. It's a game changer for everybody.
I'm about to transfer to a 4-year, and I've already saved, $30,000. Best business decision I've ever made. This is STCC.
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 Well, hopefully you all enjoyed that video. As of, March or so, we haven't been on campus, and I'm sure we can all agree on how much we miss that beautiful campus and, seeing all our colleagues, students, we do miss it. However, we're bringing the same energy, same support, and same attention to the virtual world. All right. I take some time to think about what a STIC student is. And it's very, I think everyone on the board and the conversation will agree that STIC is a unique environment, and we help cultivate amazing students, but you come in with so much. You bring in so much ambition. You are brave, you're capable. We have a very diverse population, eager. Most of our students are first gen ed, which gives it that rich culture to learn from. All of you are motivated, you're resilient, you've been through many things, and you're still pushing on, and you're present, you're here, you want to be here, you want to learn, you want to, as the video mentioned, you want to make the best business decision you can possibly do for yourself. And that's why you're here, learning more about urban studies and all that we have to offer you at STCC. So from that, I'm gonna pass the mic over to learn a little bit more about urban studies.
Great. And I love how you've provided this overview of what a STIC student is and the qualities of a STIC student. And I think that that extends to the urban studies program, because I think a lot of STIC students care about their community, right? Whether they're, and the community, I guess, being the greater Springfield metropolitan area. Because much of what urban studies is about is studying, well, obviously urban environments, but at the same time, taking what we learn in the classroom and applying that to our own communities. So whether it's, and much of that is looking at social problems that exist, whatever they may be, and taking that knowledge and those skills that we learn and really putting them to work in our own communities. And I think that really embodies a STIC student as well. As a community college, it's people who live in the community, who are from the community, who are going back to their communities, going back to the community, the greater Springfield metro area. And it's a really great opportunity for people to work in the communities they live in or they come from. And I should say that urban studies, a lot of people have questions, what is urban studies? The title is a little bit vague, and it means different things in some ways to different people. But the urban studies program at STCC is the only 2-year urban studies program in the state. And as a matter of fact, there's only 3 urban studies programs at public schools in the state. There's one at, excuse me, I apologize. There's only one other public urban studies program, and that's a 4-year degree at Worcester State University. And we actually have a relationship with Worcester State University's urban studies program. I can talk a little bit more about that later, but the general idea is that if you finish the urban studies program at STCC, you actually, if it's something you're interested in, you actually have the opportunity to transfer to the Worcester State program with advanced standing. But let me just step back a moment and talk a little bit about urban studies in general and what the urban studies program at STIC looks like. In a really broad sense, urban studies is the study of the social as well as the spatial dynamics of a metro area. And I use the term metropolitan area rather than the city or the urban area, because really the country and the globe as a whole is being urbanized, right? Most people, the vast majority of people live in an urban area in the United States as well as in the around the globe. But for many of us, we don't live in the central urban area. We live in the surrounding communities, like the suburbs, for example. And urban studies, we're really looking at the way all these locations interact, right? So we're looking at the city itself, but we're looking at the city within the context of urbanization, suburbanization, declining rural areas, for example. And so there are also other components to urban studies that include the spatial components of cities. And so urban studies speaks to students and individuals who want to work with people, for example, in social work positions or community organizations, and I can talk a little bit more about the career opportunities later, but also urban studies has a component for people who are interested in architecture, for example, people who want to work in the design of cities, the planning of cities, and other in other areas. So it's interdisciplinary, and it provides different sort of tracks for students who are interested in one component, students who are interested in other components, say the social aspect or the spatial aspect, or a combination of the two. The program is interdisciplinary. And what I mean by that is there's no core discipline within urban studies. It's more of an umbrella program. So we have many courses in the program from a diverse area, from a diverse set of disciplines. I would say predominantly though, the program focuses on sociology courses, history courses. We do have some science courses that look at environmental issues. For example, we include art courses. It's political science courses. It really is a broad spectrum of disciplines. So it provides a nice, for folks who are really interested in urban studies and want to go on in that area, it provides obviously a great foundation. But even for folks who aren't specifically interested in pursuing a bachelor's degree or a master's degree in urban studies, but are interested in going into other areas, urban studies may be the place for you. We look at topics, as I said before, like urbanization and suburbanization. There's a term some of you may be familiar with, which is sprawl. This idea that as cities grow, they grow outwards, and then as the suburbs that surround the cities grow, they grow outwards as well. And so we look at what effect does that have on housing and farming and things of that sort. We study segregation, residential segregation. We study gentrification. We study housing issues. We study regional planning, which is, as I mentioned before, folks who are interested in participating in the design of cities or the design of neighborhoods. And I want to focus too on some of the very currently relevant topics that we study in urban studies. I want to speak specifically to issues of public health and issues of race. A lot of people who are interested in healthcare think about healthcare as working in a hands-on medical environment, right? As a nurse, a doctor, so on and so forth. But people who are interested in healthcare may be interested in exploring public health, right? And the reason why this is very much relevant now is obviously we're living in a pandemic, and people who study the spread of diseases and viruses are epidemiologists and social epidemiologists. And working in public health, you're not working in a hospital, or you may, that might be the environment you work in, but you're really working in your communities, right? So when we talk about, or when you hear about in the news, or politicians are talking about, how do we stop the spread of a disease? We talk about things like you have to wear masks, right? You have to have social distancing. And when we find out that somebody has contracted COVID, we perform something called contact tracing. You may have heard this term. And contact tracing is going out and looking at, okay, this person has the virus, who have they been in contact with, right? Where have they been? And now we need to contact everybody they've been in touch with, and their families and their coworkers and all of this. You're really working in the public health field, right? You're working not in the individual's own health, although that is by extension, a part of public health, but you're really looking at the social factors that contribute to people's well-being and illness. The second, and actually just to, an aside, before I move on, is this fall, actually, and the semester starts very soon, but there's still time to sign up. We have a new course in the program called Health, Illness, and Society, taught by our very own Dr. Raja Staggers, who's a sociologist at STCC. She also has a background in public health. And so she'll be creating sort of a public health component to the program, and that starts with her new class, Health, Illness, and Society, being offered in the fall. And epidemiologists, let me just continue on with this sort of line of how the program is very relevant right now. Social epidemiologists are looking at social factors that lead to illness, that lead to decline in a person's well-being. And when we look at COVID, the current pandemic, and we look at, excuse me, when I've lost my train of thought, I apologize. When folks who study public health, they're really looking at these social factors that impact people, right? That impact people's sense of well-being, their health, so on and so forth. And by extension, what we're seeing now, you may see this in the news and politicians talk about this, is the way that that COVID and this current pandemic intersects with issues of racial inequality, right? So actually this morning I was giving another presentation and I was sharing with the folks some data on who is most susceptible to either being contracting COVID, being hospitalized because of COVID, or unfortunately dying because of COVID. And what we see across the board is that Native Americans, Latinos, and Black Americans all experience the effects of COVID at a much higher rate. They're much more vulnerable when it comes to this current pandemic than are white Americans. And so this is, this example is really great at illustrating what we do as in urban studies or as urban sociologists, is if we're studying public health and we're looking at this current pandemic, but as social epidemiologists, as people who study health in a social manner, then we're making these connections and we're looking at, well, what accounts for these racial disparities when it comes to this pandemic? Why is it that Black Americans and Latino folks are impacted at much greater rates than their white counterparts? And this sort of takes us to another component of the urban studies program, which is it's the place, and I really want to underline and emphasize it's the place at STIC to study race, racial inequality, and racism, which is obviously of the moment right now. And you can see, I hope in that example, how our courses intersect, where you have Professor Staggers, right, teaching on public health and racial inequality. Then you carry that same information into my course called Race and Society, which is also offered in the fall on both classes, obviously online. And there's still time to sign up. But these two classes really intersect, right? And so we see how public health and race intersect. And then in my Race and Society course, obviously we're going to look at the history of race, racism, and racial inequality in the United States. But then we take it right to the moment, right? Right now, there's plenty to study, right? We'll be looking at these movements for racial justice that are happening globally, right? And in an urban studies program, as I said earlier, we're looking at the social, spatial aspects of metropolitan areas. And so in a class like Race and Society, we're going to look at racism, we're going to look at racial inequality, and we're going to connect it to the space, right? We're going to connect it to things like residential segregation, gentrification, urbanization, right? We're going to not just look at race on its own, if that makes sense, but we place it within this larger context where space and the social intersect and combine. I guess, so that gives you a general sense of the sorts of things we study. That is not the only thing. I use those two examples because they're very relevant today, right now. But just to give you a sense of some of, like I said, there is a history component. So we have very exciting classes in history. We've only offered this class once because the urban studies program has only existed for a little under 2 years now. But last semester we offered a history of Springfield course, and it was incredibly popular, and we're very excited to offer it as much as we possibly can. And so, like I said, the program is very much for people who who want to study their community or any community, but a lot of people like to, especially I found at STIC, a lot of people want to return and work within their communities. We provide that opportunity to study, to really rigorously study the social and spatial aspects of the city. And in lots of ways, not just in looking at contemporary public health issues, but also looking at the history of Springfield or the history of urbanization in general. So there's a wide variety of courses, and there's actually within the program, you can really specialize. There are required courses, of course, but there's opportunities for you to focus on the things that interest you the most. And I will just, talking about the program, I just wrap up making a couple other points. Because we're so interested in students studying their communities and working within their communities, we're working to establish relationships with community agencies, community nonprofits, social service programs where our students could intern, our students could volunteer at these agencies. And oftentimes, as we all know, interning and volunteering leads to actual employment. So we want students not just learning in the classroom, but we want to provide opportunities for them to learn and work in their communities as well.
Wow, I learned so much. I had so many. I'm like, oh, that's cool. From what I gathered, is that this program, really does look at society at a macro level, at a bigger level, and then really does try to window down like what affects what, cause and effect of our society, those we come in contact. But most importantly, you can't make strides in the future and make the city, urban areas, rural areas better and how they work in their own areas, but also together if we don't look at the history of what has happened. The classes you mentioned, I'm like, oh wow, I would like to sign that up for that. It's so intriguing. I think you made a really good example when you brought it down to what's happening present and how COVID has really exposed many disparities in all types of level. We're looking at educational disparities, technology disparities. Why does those exist? We're looking at health disparities. Why is COVID affecting different pockets of people, and even zip codes, and you talked about, I'm not going to pronounce it, probably going to butcher it, but the how do you pronounce that?
Epidemiology.
Yes, and I remember watching the news and there was someone speaking on it, and that was their title, and I'm like, wow. So I just made that connection myself. And I am a very firm believer. I do a lot of work around diversity, inclusion, and equity, and I like to add transparency to that. So this also reminds me a lot of that work because it gets down to the roots. Because looking at social problems from a macro level, they're not just for every single population and every single type of American or immigrant. They're different. So you really brought that all together to me, and I hope that those who are with us today, it really did open their eyes to what urban study is at STCC and how we're the only institution that can provide that type of quality and rich and historic and also present knowledge, and combine them and really put the people back out there to work. Urban studies, like you said, many of our community members want to stay home. We grew up here, we want to create change in our environment. And this is a perfect way to do that, because you're getting the educational expertise you need, but you're bringing in an expertise that some people don't even have. And that's the expertise of living in your spaces, right? And you're bringing a whole unique level to the classroom and to STCC's rich and diverse student population and staff, staff population. So I even thought about human services.
Yes.
For a lot of things that you said actually remind me of a human service worker at a different level with a title and credentials that really hones down to the intersectional differences of people.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. I would, we've only been in existence for a little under 2 years. Last semester was cut short, obviously. So we're one of the things, so I had to sort of put a hold on this, but one of my first initiatives with urban studies was to create an urban studies speaker series to bring members of the community into the classroom. And then I had a successful first speaker in my class, and then I opened the rest of the speaker series I opened up to the entire college. And there's been great turnouts, but yeah, I think you bring up human services and social services, and honestly, I think when people think I want to work in social services, and this is rightfully so, they look at our program offerings and they say, well, there's a program called social services, right? That's for me. But I think it's worth considering urban studies, because there's certain areas that people might want to work where you're going to actually get some of the same training you would in the social services program, but something else that's going to speak specifically to the type of work you want to do. And just as an illustration, an incredibly popular speaker who visited us twice is somebody from Tapestry Health who provide community health services in countless ways in the entire Western Massachusetts area. But I have a gentleman named Khalid come in and provide a presentation on oh, now of course I'm forgetting. He presented on the work that Tapestry does in the community around drug addiction, and but he also provided us with a training on can you help me out? The overdose reversal drug. It is I'm drawing a blank.
Oh my God. Give me a second.
No,
it's a needle they put in you.
This is so embarrassing. I can't.
It's okay. No, but I learned about that. It's basically it's an emergency intersection that many community members can get offered to. Police officers are now carrying it, and again, I have to look at the word, but it's a big social problem here, especially in Springfield and Holyoke, even Agawam, when you're having a drug addiction overdose, someone can tap that and just give it right in. I cannot get the word, but I was a part of that.
Methadone, but I know methadone is related, but I want to, well, it'll come to me in a second, but Suboxone, no, these are great answers. No. Oh, well, let me move on and I'll come back to it. Maybe one of you will get the answer. But what was fantastic about bringing a representative from Tapestry in is I think a lot of students' eyes were open to, well, oh, wow, like part of working in Tapestry, which is social services, and also public health, is working in the community, going into the streets, checking in with people who are users, making sure that naloxone, thank you, Keith, I appreciate it. Making sure that people have access to naloxone, training people in its use, providing people with safe equipment and clean supplies, right? So that if they are going to use drugs, that they're going to use them in the safest way possible. It's called a harm reduction approach. But so I say all that because somebody who says, hey, I'm really interested in social services and I know I want to work in drug prevention, or I want to work in work on the street, maybe with the homeless population or what have you. Urban studies really may be a better place for you. You're going to study those same issues. We provide opportunities for you to actually work in the field if you want to. Like I said, not a requirement, but if you're interested in that sort of thing, those opportunities are there. And just to go back to Tapestry Health, when I spoke with the with the presenter, he said, oh yeah, we'd love to have your students come down and intern and volunteer. And he said, you know, we're always hiring, you know, we're always looking to train people in the community, you know, on the ground. And you know, he's not here to vouch for me, but I can promise you he agreed urban studies would really provide a nice foundation for these students. So yeah, so it's a really broad, flexible program that can provide students, you know, a background for just a number of different jobs. And I should also point out, it also provides a nice foundation for transferring into a 4-year degree in a non-urban studies area. You know, it's if you know, any social science, any behavioral science, if you're interested in working in environmental science, off the top of my, I mean, we're talking, you know, or if you're interested in continuing on in really any humanities or liberal arts, urban studies is going to provide that same foundation that you would get with general studies, but it's a little more specialized. The fact that it's a little more specialized means you might get, you will get some training that will prepare you for employment in a way that general studies degree might not. And that's not to say anything negative about general studies degrees, but it's much more transfer focused. Whereas with urban studies, we're transfer focused, we provide a ton of opportunities for transfer, but we're also employment focused. We want students to come out of this 2-year program saying, I want to transfer, I want to go on, or you know what, I'm done with college, I want to get into the workforce, I know what I want to do. And hopefully urban studies has prepared students to go into fields that they will find fulfilling.
And I think you make a valid point. Before we go to the next slide, I just want to say, being an admissions counselor here at STIC, I talk to all types of students, and I hear students all the time say, I love working with people. I love working with domestic violence survivors, their families. I like working with the homeless and providing opportunities. You name it, right? But automatically their mind, because we're programmed that way, and that's what we see the most, is social work, human service, and again, they are great fields. And are very, very rewarding with them in themselves. But what makes urban studies so much unique is that it actually takes a step back. You can do those types of jobs, you know, depending on where you go with social work, you may need a little license, so it becomes a little dicey there. But you can do the same type of work on the health field and education, right. In the food industry, you know, talking about farms and how those are winding down, and you know, they're becoming gentrified in another aspect. I probably didn't use the right word for that setting, but they're changing, you know, and that affects our food. We don't get quality food here in the city. You know, we always have these, and excuse me, I'm Puerto Rican, so my Spanish, you know, but we have bodegas in the corner where they can food and sugar and all that stuff, and we, you know, we can't walk in walking distance to get fresh foods and so on and so forth. So yes, you have a health study, human services track, you have social work track, and you do have urban studies, what falls shoulder to shoulder with these, but takes a step back so that you can look things at and helps you becomes more analytical and see things at a bigger picture, and really you know, like you said, provide process of improvement and really solve problems that the daily person, the daily group of people are facing. So, you know, definitely look at urban studies. It provides so much. You can grow in so many areas, and even and back me up in just in this little bit, but architectural, you know, you're looking at building houses, you know, where there's home insecurities, or restoring houses. That also falls into urban studies from my research. And I found that very interesting, and how, you know, for example, redlining, you know, where you know, African Americans and Latinos weren't able to get loans, and immigrants weren't able to get loans to buy houses. And if they did, when we were able to, we were only providing certain locations. So it looks like we have some questions, which is really good. That means that, you know, we're getting people thinking and really, you know, broadening what people think of just this title, because it's bigger than just this. So let's go on to the next slide. I don't know why does it move like I wanted to. So we had some questions that those who were signed up for the event today were able to send to us in advance. And these are some of the questions that they did ask. I do got some of the chat as well, so I'll try to visit that if we have time. So I'll ask you, Josh, what does the curriculum look like in urban studies? I know you talked a little bit about it.
Yeah, like I said before, I touched upon it, and I think, you know, just when the curriculum comes up, I mean, I think the best way to describe it is it's interdisciplinary, and I gave you some examples of the courses. I mean, we have health, illness and society, we have race and society, urban sociology, and I mentioned the history of Springfield, history of urbanization in general, and because it's interdisciplinary, we also have, you know, we have sort of hands-on science courses, you know, where you're looking at environmental issues, and, you know, you touched upon food insecurity, right? So we sort of, you know, so I know some students are, you know, not just interested in the social sciences, but perhaps are interested in the biological sciences or the hard sciences, and we offer those types of courses as well. But really the curriculum is broad. If you're interested, you know, there's sure to be something that touches upon your particular interest. And I should say, maybe in when we're talking about the curriculum, I do want to drive home the point that the urban studies curriculum was created specifically to fall in line with general studies. So even though it is not specifically general studies, it provides you with the same required courses, not the exact same courses, but let me phrase it this way, it fulfills the same requirements. Yes, it fulfills the same requirements that you would need to participate in the mass transfer program. So even if you complete the urban studies program, you say, you know what, during the course of completing this program, I'm really interested in education, I decided. You're still part of mass transfer. Or you say to yourself, you know what, I want to be a social worker, right? No problem. You're part of mass transfer. You have the opportunity to transfer to any of the schools that accept mass transfer, all the public colleges and universities that you would with a general studies degree. So like I said before, it's really a type of program where it's more focused than general studies. And so I think because it's any program that's a little more focused, you're going to come out prepared for employment a little bit better than a more general degree. General studies is much more geared towards transfer, which is fantastic. But within general studies, to have an option like urban studies is nice. It's a good alternative.
And it looks like you kind of answered the next question is what type of classes. You named a few, but because urban studies is almost a sister program of general studies, if you know, for lack of better words, most of the classes going into general studies and urban studies, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it's there's no requirements unless you're going to a higher level. So for example, if you're taking a sociology class, Sociology 101, you just need your English, which you will always need, the foundational courses, English, math, science, social, and psychology. But you can't go right into, you know, a higher level social class. You have to go at least take Social 101. Is that correct?
So actually, I brought up Dr. Staggers earlier, and she and I, over the last semester or so, have really worked to make urban studies a place where students can take courses even if they have not finished English 101. Yeah, because, you know, a lot of our students come in, they're finishing up developmental English or developmental writing. And one of the problems is, you know, if you fall into that category, you might be taking these courses to prepare yourself for college and not really earning credit while you're doing that, because the developmental courses you don't earn credit with those. But Professor Staggers and I really wanted to make urban studies and sociology even more specifically a place where a student can say, all right, you know what, I had to knock out that developmental class. Boy, I can't, you know, the idea of taking a semester more of classes before I can really get into my program is a little, it can be, it can turn people off, and understandably so. And so we wanted to make our classes very accessible. So as a matter of fact, you don't even need to take Social 101 to take Sociology 210, which is Race and Society, because I want students in the class, right? And, we've got the fall semester coming up, and there's no, I said there's still time to register. My race and society class is full, but you send me an email, I'll let you in, no problem. Anybody can take it. And I have a feeling it's very full because people are saying, oh my God, oh my gosh, look at, I need to study race right now, right? Like this is what's going on every day, right? I'm watching out my window. I'm watching, all of these uprisings for racial justice and all this anti-racism work and all of these problems, social problems related around race. And I want students to take the class, right? I want them to be in the class. Professor Staggers wants students in her health, illness, and society class so they can be learning these things, being involved in what we see as very important topics. So that's not to say you don't need to complete Intro to Sociology, but we wanted to create it so it's a little more flexible. So while you're working on those requirements, you don't have to wait to take Race and Society. You don't have to wait to take Urban Sociology. Most of our upper level or 200 level courses do not have many prerequisites because we figure it's more engaging for students to be actually taking the specific classes related to the program, rather in those first 2-3 semesters wading through classes that don't actually, aren't like specific to your program, just taking general eds. But why not in that first semester pop right into Race and Society, or in your second semester, even while you're still finishing up some of the more basic courses. So yeah, so we're really proud of that. It's something we wanted to make this, because we see this program as very much community-based, because we see it as a sort of program that people can put into action. By taking the courses, we wanted to be as inclusive as possible, and make our classes as widely available as possible. So even though my Race and Society class is full, send me an email, I'll let you in, no problem.
That's the plug.
That's the plug for that class. Health and Illness and Society still has spots, so get your seat there.
And first of all, you taught me something new, so thank you. But that exactly what you said is that you don't need to wait. And a lot of people get discouraged when you're taking developmental courses. I know when I came to STIC as a student, I took developmental course and it took a while. So it really does speak to the culture at STCC, and what you and your team is putting out there for our community. You're being very equitable, and giving our community a sense of working towards a goal early on than waiting. So that's awesome. And this is again another reason why urban study is as unique as it really is. It really does focus on being equitable and seeing things at a different angle, and how can we improve the quality of life. You providing that class early on is improving the quality of life of our students in their academic career.
I forgot something, and I'm glad we were talking about inclusivity and equity. Is I'm proud to say another one of the required courses is Sociology of the Family, which is a really great class, fun class. And I'm really proud to say that it'll be one of the first classes offered in Spanish here at STIC. So this fall, the second fall 2, I guess we call it. There is a section of Sociology of the Family which will be taught in Spanish, as we move forward, we'll try and expand that as much as possible. And the idea being that there are a lot of students who are continuing to work on their English language skills, and the more classes we can make available in Spanish, or I think it'll be difficult in other languages. A lot of students at STIC speak other non-English languages, but the largest percentage is those who speak Spanish. So while students are developing those English language skills, we want to offer a class. Hey, come take Social of the Family. We're offering, I wish I cannot, my Spanish is not that great to be teaching an entire course. I would love that. So we have other faculty who will be teaching that course. And but again, it's another, you're at STIC, you're taking those developmental classes, you're working on developing your English language skills. We still have a class that you can take, earn 3 credits while you're working on that.
Awesome. That is so great. And then the next question is, what types of jobs does this program prepare students for? I know you touched a little bit on it early on, but if you want to add anything to that.
Sure. I mean, it's you know, we touched upon a lot of it. I mean, it's very broad. You know, I think, like I mentioned, students who want to go into social services or work with community organizations. You brought up education. You know, it definitely prepares students who are interested in going on for going further for their degree in education. It also, traditionally, it's prepared students for urban planning or regional planning, or what we might call urban design. And those are folks who would work typically with government agencies. You know, Springfield is like a great little laboratory for this sort of thing. But to give you an example of what we mean by urban planning or regional planning, think back to when the casino was plopped down on Springfield, right? Imagine all the work that went into to planning that new environment, right? Basically, it was wipe down part of the South End and build this casino, and then how are we going to build the infrastructure around it? That's an example of urban planning or urban design. So people who are interested in going into that type of work, you know, this helps prepare you for that. And you know, we might be running low on time, so I won't go on and on, but I want to just kind of make these links because, again, you know, you think, well, I'm not really interested in urban planning. I'm not sure what that is, but think about it. If you're living in this community, whether it's, you know, the South End or Springfield at large or just the metro area, and you have this big change where this casino is dropped down into the city, the area around that casino had to be radically changed, right? And so working in urban planning, if you're concerned about, you know, the nice thing about urban studies, I'm trying to make this connection, is we have this focus on not just racial inequality, but all sorts of inequalities and inequities. And like I said in the beginning, we're connecting the social to the spatial. Now, when Springfield redesigned that area, did they take into consideration the people who lived there, you know, in the community before?
Gentrification, you said
right?
earlier.
About gentrification. And so you may not think you're interested in urban planning. You may think, oh, I'm really interested in working in housing or with the homeless or the unhoused. But you may realize, oh, wow, I'm interested in the way my community is developed moving forward. Are we bringing in affordable housing? You know, are we bringing in high rent housing to go along with the casino, so on and so forth. So that's a long-winded way to say that, you know, there's this sort of traditional urban studies path, which would be going on and working in urban planning or working with governments or nonprofits, but really you can working in the community. That's the broadest way to say what jobs is this? If you want to work in your community, this is helping prepare you for that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to go in from there. I think the last 2 questions we answered earlier, which is great. And students have ample opportunities to put theory to practice, to internship, as you mentioned, and get jobs and being employed right after or even during the associate's degree. And you're going to learn a wealth of knowledge on all aspects of our community and a larger spectrum. So I'll go on from there. And just to touch base on the online, all your classes will be online for the fall unless you have a lab. So that kind of answered the question. We are putting our students, staff, and faculty safety first and foremost. So we don't want to risk the chance that we don't want anyone to get sick. So we have a low density model where if you only have a lab, for example, biology, and it's associated with lab, your biology class itself, so your lectures, your homework, and all that stuff will be online with the rest of the classes. That lab where you're hands-on, you'll be on campus for that lab. You will be in a 1-to-8 ratio, meaning 1 professor to 8 students or less. In order to keep that safety at its minimum, you'll on campus go through our testing, COVID testing stations, and you go out. And that's how we're going to keep it smoothing and clean all the areas that are being occupied. We have a very good organizational design to make sure that all areas that are occupied are clean, are sterile, and making sure that it's clean for the next class who are coming in. So from that, I'll go a little further. I know Josh talked about transfer opportunities, so I'll touch it up a little bit more. As he mentioned, you can transfer urban study. It is a sister program of general studies with a little spin, a little merengue or salsa, I like to say, added on there, where you can branch off to so many degrees and so many more job opportunities. But it is a foundation, and it is in the mass transfer, which is a great opportunity for students to attend a four-year college, a four-year university at the state level and save money. You can earn a bachelor's degree for roughly about $29,000 at any of the state institutions. If you go in through this track, start here, finish here, keep your GPA up, and transfer on out, you're looking at saving, a lot of money. $29,000 for 4 years is what most people pay for 1 year. So just to give you a quick synopsis. And then we also have a matriculation agreement, meaning we have programs, specific programs or discounted programs, should I say, as well, with different private institutions. All these institutions also provide a quality education as well, but you're looking at Bay Path, you're looking at Northeastern, Wentworth, you're looking at Western New England, Elms, you're looking at AIC, and I can't think of any more, but those are just an example of some of the matriculation agreements we have in specific programs. So definitely take some time to look at the mass transfer and contact us if you want to learn a little bit more. All right, so this is the Urban Study Supreme team right here. You have, Josh is here. You have both of the professors that work alongside with him.
May I add? I'm so sorry to jump in. I've mentioned Professor Staggers about 12 times, and you'll notice that she's not up here, and that's my fault. She joined our department last semester, just in the spring, so she's not listed on the website yet, and I should have caught that earlier, but we're very excited, like I said before, that she's part of the program as well, and she brings a background in public health that is going to be fantastic. Okay.
And she also brings a wealth of knowledge on diversity, equity, inclusion. So I'm so glad she's a part of your team. She is going to be a wonderful addition to the rich professors and knowledge they're going to be providing you all students with in the classroom dynamic. And as I mentioned, classes are going to be online for the fall, but the Ram Nation, school spirit will not die there. It's actually going to be, heightened. The professors, they just give you life and how they teach you. And these programs and these classes that, we just talked about are going to give you so much energy to do this work and to go out there and be a change agent. So this is the department, along with Dr. Roger, I call her Roger, she's a dear friend of mine, Strager, but this is the contact information if you want to learn more. Our professors are amazing. They're always there, willing to help, to walk you through the process, alongside with the advising department, academic advising, admissions, student success center, the library services. We are all a team, and we are eager to continue to do our work and support you as you transform your life and your community. All right, so I just want to talk a little bit about the career coach. If you're still up in the air not knowing what to do, please look at our website at stcc.edu and check out our career coach. It is a free tool which really allows you to focus on you. It's a survey, it's very intensive, but be honest with it, and it provides you with different work environments, different careers that you may excel in, and it aligns them with our programs, our associate programs and certificate programs. So take a look at that if you're still looking on what to do. If you came to this session, I can already imagine that if you continue to do the career coach, that you're going to learn you are the perfect type of student that will flourish in the urban studies. So I encourage you to do that along with applying or meeting with one of us, myself, and I'm sure some of the faculties will be more than happy to meet with you and kind of give you more in-depth information if need be. All right, so applying to STIC right now, classes start at September 8th. Today's technically kind of the last day you can apply, but it's very simple. It takes about 5 minutes to apply. We need your high school transcript. If you are a returning student and coming back to take, what was it, race and social problems?
Oh, race and society.
Race and society, and coming back to take race and society, all you need to apply if you've been out of school for 2 semesters, which roughly is an academic year. So all you need to do is just get back in and apply into the program and meet with an advisor, get you in that class. You don't need to submit a new transcript because you already have your high school transcript here. So half the application process is already done. If you are a new student, you do have to apply and submit a high school transcript and hopefully get that to us today. And in either situations where no matter what type of student you are, returning, ready to rock and roll student, or eager, ready to rock and roll student, you will need a FAFSA application so that it can, if you plan on using those funds to pay your program. And if it's in the process, just talk to financial aid. There may be some payment plans you have to do just to hold your spot in the class. Then when your application comes in, your FAFSA application come in, it will reimburse you if you were at a 0 balance. So quick, easy as 1, 2, 3. And there are, so again, I mentioned there is the start, which is September 8th. That will take you off the traditional semester, which is about 4 months long. But within those semesters, and Josh had talked about this earlier, we have 2 mini sessions, and we call them flex term or fall 1 and fall 2. The context is the same, just used interchangeably for the titles. So if you don't get to start right now, it's okay. You have actually more time to be mentally prepared and get to know us and get to meet with the admission staff, and you can start in flex 2 or fall 2. But just so you know, the difference is that those little mini sessions are 7 weeks. So you can still get all the content you need within 7 weeks, and you move on to the next semester, which will be either winter if you choose or spring. So there are 3 start times. All right. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. I know we answered a lot of the questions already. So we'll give it a minute or so to see if anyone has it. If not, we will say our thank yous and take it from there.
While we wait just a second, I'll just, I think I mentioned this, but if you do join the school in fall 2 or flex term 2, sociology of the family will be offered, which is part of urban studies, both in English and Spanish. So if you don't get in the beginning of the semester, there's still opportunities to take some great courses in fall 2.
Awesome, awesome, thank you. All right. So with that, I would like to thank you all for listening to us and learning and being open to really dive deep and dissect urban studies, because that's what we kind of did. We saw what urban study is from the in and out, and what type of student Josh's department and his peers are developing and cultivating. So I want to thank you, Josh. I want to thank you as well for your time and your expertise.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, with that, we will say goodbye, stay safe, and we hope to see you in the upcoming weeks.